Irashaimase. Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this week we have Deleted, a twin-stick roguelite. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Epic Sir Games, Deleted released in November of 2023 for the PlayStation 4 and the Nintendo Switch, which is the version we're looking at today. There is a Steam release planned, but at this time it hasn't released and there is no release date available. So as far as what type of game this is, it's basically one where you're building a shoot 'em up style run from basically nothing with some meta progression and ultimately buying sub-weapons and passives to make yourself overall stronger. And this game increases the difficulty by making your runs longer as you complete more of them. So if that's something you're interested in, then this might be one that's worth looking into. Overall, I don't feel that this title is all the way where it needs to be, so maybe don't pick it up at full price and just wait for a sale, but it does have some interesting ideas and has a nice, relatively chill feel to it. That said, diving into the main menu. So initially on the right side, we can see some meta progression that the game has. So as you complete runs, not only does the game get a little bit longer, but you have the chance to upgrade some of your stats permanently. So you can see those there. On the left, the options are relatively bare bones, and then we have the continue and start new. So with some experimentation, I haven't really noticed a whole lot of difference between those two options. So for our purposes today, we'll just be continuing a run. Starting up, we have 4 weapons we can choose between. So as far as these weapons are concerned, what distinguishes them is just basically your fire speed for the most part. So the basic one is a decently strong shot that has a good reload speed. The one on the top right, so there's no names or description here, it's just the iconography, which isn't great. This is basically our machine gun, so lower damage but fast rate of fire. Then we have our sniper in the bottom left, which is slow reload but high damage. And then on the bottom right, this is the most confusing one, this is actually our spread or shotgun option. So for our purposes today, we'll be showing the game with just the base weapon. So here's our little drone that we're playing as. The left stick on a controller will move you around, the right stick will aim. There's no tutorial given, so real quick, just we also have a shield available. That shield uses energy that you can see in the top left. We also have a dash, so if you're moving in a direction, you hit the dash button, you'll dash. There's your shot, and there's also a secondary shot. At this point, we don't have a secondary weapon, but those will also use energy once we obtain them. So, diving into an arena itself, we've got these enemies we have to take out. So, as enemies are defeated, they'll drop one of 3 possible items. You'll either see blue lightning bolt, which is additional energy, orange, which is additional life, or you'll see kind of like a chip, which is our currency, which we'll refer to just as credits. There we go, there's some of the credits. One thing that's really neat, the whole arenas are procedurally generated, and not just that, they're also destructible. They'll initially start with a reddish hue, and then once you've defeated all of the enemies in the particular arena you're in, it'll turn blue, so that's how you know you can proceed. Proceeding, we move to the right. This gate here will be open once we've defeated the enemies, and we can come to this cute little retailer drone. And this is where the meat of your usual roguelike comes into play. So here we can buy upgrades, and already I see some great options in the shop, but we also have the option for 3 rerolls every shop we come to. So that's something that's important. If you don't like what you see, you can reroll hoping to get something better. So if we had the money for it, it'd be great to pick up the rocket launcher. Of the sub-weapons that are available, it's not my favorite, but it does have its uses. However, the life absorber, this one is great. So it gives you basically a chance to get some life back for every shot you fire and hit. And so that really helps with the survivability of our run. So purchasing that, we continue on to the next arena. So initially, the first couple times you play through runs, you're only going to have a couple of arenas to complete. Then as you play and complete more and more arenas, or rather more and more runs, the number of arenas you have to clear to complete a run increase, and you can see that number in the bottom right there. So initially you'll be completing just a few arenas, and it ultimately keeps on adding up until you get to where I'm at right now, where I'm got 12 arenas to get through to move on to the next stage. Here we find ourselves at our next retailer, and we can pick up additional life absorbers or even an energy absorber. So with the money we have, I'm going to go and buy one of both, and that doesn't really leave us a whole lot left, so we'll continue moving on. And the game will progress this way until we ultimately get to the end of our run, at which point you'll have the option to increase one of your stats permanently, and yours will start a new run. Of course, at any time you can exit out, and there's two possible ways that your run can end. You can either run out of life, or, as you've noticed, the terrain is like fully destructible around us. You can potentially run off like the arena, and that will result in loss of a life. So you do have to be careful about that, especially where we can destroy the environment around us. So at this point, it might be prudent to grab just a little bit of life just so we can continue moving. And here we actually have the option, before I move on, to pick up a couple different sub-weapons. So we could go and buy this lightning weapon, which fires a lightning bolt, which can also fire to another enemy, or this force push, which will go and push the enemies back, potentially stunning them. We can also re-roll, get the rocket launcher. That's the one I want, the grenade launcher. So this one's my favorite of the ones available. We have a little bit of extra money, so let's grab some crit damage. So one thing I don't like, there's no way to tell what you have as far as the passes are concerned. It's not anywhere on the screen, and if you pause, this is all the menu that we have. So I really wish that there was some way we could see the passives that we had, other than just seeing what levels we were when we were at the shop and we're like having the option to go and buy additional life absorbers or something like that. Oops, I accidentally ended that run. So that's basically deleted, served up for your enjoyment. This will give us the option at least to go and show off another weapon. So for our purposes, we'll like take the shotgun one. I don't feel it's as strong as a shotgun should be in this type of a game, but it does get the job done. It just, I don't know, I would have hoped for a little bit more when you're in close range, just being able to really quickly take out enemies. So overall, as far as the minus flavors are concerned for this game for me, the biggest feeling I have is that the game just will get a little bit monotonous after a while, because the music and the background, or rather the overall like look of the arenas doesn't change. It's always this hexagonal, like blocky type arena. And even if it's procedurally generated, it's still always going to be the same look. The same goes for the enemies, but there are a decent enough enemy types. I don't necessarily mind what's there. I just wish there was a little bit more of a change in scenery run to run. Then also the lack of being able to see what passives we actually have currently equipped is a little disappointing. You can get around that a little bit, but that's, I guess, definitely a gripe though, is that you just have no way of knowing unless you're keeping it in your mind. It's like, okay, I bought an energy absorber, I bought life absorber, and especially when the runs are shorter, it was really easy to go and blend those together, and it's like, wait a second, don't I have a life absorber already? No, that was the last run that ended just like an arena ago, so I wish that there was either some status on the screen itself that showed you which passives you had and what level they were at, or if in the start screen you could see those particular passives. Things are definitely moving along pretty smoothly. We grab just another level of energy absorber, and so some of these enemies definitely are a good use for our grenade launcher. We can send out the shells there, and you can see they do use a fair bit of energy, but with the energy absorber we should be able to recover those relatively quickly. But as far as the plus flavors are concerned, I do love that feeling of progression we have. Oh, here's another interesting issue I've had. So initially, the first time I encountered this, when the enemy spawned on the other side of the gate, I thought that I was soft lock and I just had to end the run and start again. That's not the case. You can actually blow away the surrounding ground, sneak around there, and bam, you can take out that enemy. But there are a couple bugs here and there like that. I've also had a couple points where the game has actually like hard crashed on me and drops to the Switch desktop, so that's something to keep in mind, is that there are some issues with some of the procedural generation, and I also just like the gameplay itself not being as like stable as you would potentially hope. But as far as the plus flavors are concerned, I do like that feeling of progression that the game has, where as you get moving along, you do notice your strength increasing, especially in an individual run, as you get more crit damage available, as you get more energy absorbers and life absorbers. You can really increase the survivability of the run itself, to the point where you just feel pretty strong. So even like if the difficulty spike is adding like more arenas to it, in a good roguelite you will see a steady increase in your strength. So it's even if like the runs are longer, like you'll ultimately end a little bit stronger. And that just feels, in this kind of game, just feels good. And then overall, like with just a little bit of like playing and time to it, it does feel nice and chill. A couple other like minor like problems as well. Just like the lack of tutorial is a little disappointing, but that in and of itself isn't necessarily a deal breaker. It just takes you a couple moments to figure out what every button does. So there you have it, deleted, served up for your enjoyment. Ultimately, one that I think is worth having a look at, but maybe not at like the full price. This one might be one that's best to wait for at the sale. Alright, that'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for joining us this week. I hope you have a wonderful week yourself, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.